Alright, Freddie here, back with another video, and this video is about appointment setting, how to use it, how to properly set an appointment setting system up, how to probably, conversate with warm leads, so on and so forth, the whole lot. And this is going to be like a complete training. But, like always, if you've watched my videos before, you already know why my phone's here. I have my notes here, and this is really just to keep me on track. Don't know why I'm like this, but my most valuable videos always tend to be when I have my notes here. I know exactly what to say. But bottom line, right? Most online coaches treat appointment setting like a numbers game, right? You're always taught, oh, sales is a numbers game. Well, I don't really agree. Sales is more of a skills game than a numbers game, but most coaches, most online coaches that I speak to, at least, they think sales, appointment setting, all that stuff is a numbers game when it's really not, right? And that is prevalent in their current strategy. They either hire some random VA from a job board, or some from random like Facebook group chats, and they get them to like blast 100 cold DMs a day, or they try to automate the whole thing with spammy ManyChat templates. And they do all these things and they wonder why their calendar's full of no-shows. They're full of tire kickers that are just there to waste their time, and people that just need to think about it, right? The thing is, right, most online coaches don't understand that appointment setting is arguably the most important part of any coaching business when it comes to scaling, right? Without a solid appointment setting framework, you're basically just letting go of dozens or even hundreds of potential qualified leads every single month that could have become clients. And if your DMs are full of ghosted conversations, if your setters are just copying and pasting scripts, or even if your calendar looks full but your Stripe doesn't, you don't have a leads problem, you have a systems problem, okay? An appointment setting that is done wrong is basically the fastest way to burn the business that you've been building for the past few months or even the past few years. So this video is for you if you're tired of inconsistent lead flow and leads that dry up the second you stop posting, and if you want daily flows of calls, of qualified booked calls that are booked with buyers, people who are ready to get into whatever you have to sell, right? And people who actually believe in what you're trying to do and what you're trying to help people with, right? And if you're on this video for a quick hack, if you're on this video for like a quick trick that you want to copy and paste, this video is not for you. So if that's you, please just click off the video. But if you're the opposite of that and you genuinely want to maximize the amount of quality leads coming through your pipeline, what I'm going to show you in this video is going to change the game for you, right? So instead of guessing, instead of chasing or hoping that leads show up, you'll have a pipeline that compounds trust and fills your calendar daily, essentially, or even weekly, depending on your lead flow. So first things first, I want to start with principles, right? I want to start with first, foundations for you to understand why we do things a certain way, and why we do things the way that we do. It's all based on 4 key principles that I'm going to outline right now. Okay, so this is the start of the training. So, first principle is that you need to realize appointment setting is easy. And you're probably overcomplicating it. If you've been on offers before, if you've been, if you've never even done appointment setting, I'm truly a believer that anyone can be an appointment setter, literally anyone, because all that you're doing is sending messages to people and having text message conversations with them. That's it. You just have to come across as a human being. That's all you need to do. Right? Obviously there's structures to it, there's different nuances that you have to take into account, but really and truly appointment setting is extremely easy, especially if you're working on a creator type offer where people are coming to the creator to get help, right? So keep that in mind. Appointment setting is very, very easy. And yeah, you're probably overcomplicating it in the sense of you don't have to have these insane word tracks. You don't have to, be a master at the English language. Obviously, a basic level of English is preferred. It's required, but you don't have to be an outstanding appointment setter or have a ton of experience to actually do well at this. You just have to have common sense. That's it. So yeah, that's the first thing. Appointment setting is easy. Keep that in mind. Second thing is, do not blindly follow scripts. There will be instances where you need to go off script to match the convo with the prospect. So this is very important as well, because when you're having a conversation with a prospect, you have to realize a prospect is a different person each time. A prospect is just a person, right? And you're going to be speaking to different people each time with different pain points, different goals, different things that they've tried before, all that stuff, right? The whole script, right? We don't really follow a script per se. It's mainly like talking points that you have to hit in the conversation. Like, I'll give an example. Usually what the conversation should be is you find out, identify, depending on the offer, identifying what the person or the prospect's main issue is right now that they're trying to solve. Then you ask them, based on the offer again, like depending on the offer, whether it's something that affects them day to day, or you ask them how long this has been an issue for them, or how long they've been actively working towards solving that issue. Then the next thing that you want to get is some kind of financial qualification or geographical qualification, right? At this point you would have built some rapport in the conversation, so straight up asking these questions will be a lot easier, right? So for certain offers, we ask financial qualification questions, right? Like, I don't know, like what do you do for work, for example. Obviously there's ways that you say it and stuff like that to make it a little less like blunt and direct like that, because that can rub off the wrong way on certain people. But yeah, we either do that or we do some kind of geographical qualification as well, where let's say a creator or a client or an offer that you're working on only works with certain people from certain areas in the world, then yeah, that'll be another kind of qualification. So once you've found out what their main problem is, how long that problem has been affecting them, or how long they've been actively trying to solve that problem, or whether that problem is kind of like affecting their day-to-day life or whatever, or how it's affecting their day-to-day life, you then do the qualification questions. Obviously at this point you would have empathized with them, related to them, built up rapport, so that these questions hold more weight and they're much more likely to be answered. And then all you need to find out then is just what's holding them back, right? That's all you need to worry about. Yeah, so those four things, right? Issue, impact of that issue, some kind of qualification, and what's holding them back from solving that issue that they're having, or reaching whatever goal that they have. So those are the four things. And then after that, it's kind of like, yeah, you're on track to actually book them onto an appointment, right? So yeah, that's kind of like the whole thing with that. But there's a key point there that I want you to realize, is that there's not a set script that you need to follow, right? Obviously with words and stuff, there's certain ways that you have to say certain things to make the questions or whatever you say hold more weight. But with that being said, I am not a huge fan of scripts, like word for word scripts. I only really use them if someone really doesn't know what they're doing in terms of what they need to say. But I don't like really using word for word scripts, because it kills like imagination and it makes you sound like more of a robot, and it gets you into a mindset where you're using blanket statements, or you're using generalized statements rather than actually personalizing the conversation to that one prospect, right? So that's kind of my my point here. Like, you're not supposed to like scripts do help, but you're not supposed to blindly follow them, right? Think of more of the anatomy of a conversation to set someone on an appointment, right? Think more of talking points that you need to hit rather than actual words and phrases that you need to use. Okay, because at that point, when you think about it like that, you're going to progress way more, and your skills are going to be way more transferable across different offers and different types of prospects, right? So that's kind of what I want to get into. And another thing is, usually people will be like, you need to follow the whole kind of anatomy, the whole kind of script before you book someone on a call. I even used to think like that as well. But, we've tested a bunch of different, formats in terms of appointment setting. And one thing I tell like other appointment setters that I work with is, if someone like is warm enough and they seem like they would get on a call, they'll be up for getting on a call, just pitch the call right away, right? Obviously don't like be like, oh yeah, do you want to get on a call? Like, you obviously don't want to just do it like that straight away. What you want to do is obviously say like, we can definitely help you, achieve XYZ goal, or help you solve XYZ problem. Have you got like 30 minutes sometime this week to get on a call? We can, break it down for you, like that kind of thing. But if a prospect at the start of the conversation, or before it's usually happening, is showing that they would be very interested in getting on a call, right? You just send over that pitch, right, to get on a call, right? I'll get into more about like, how you'd actually say it later on in the video, but later on in the training. But keep that in mind, right? You don't have to blindly follow a script. Obviously, as you become, this kind of stuff comes with experience, right? Obviously, this kind of stuff comes with experience. So I wouldn't highly recommend, a beginner having that kind of intuition. Usually I would recommend a beginner like follow the talking points and then get into booking a call. But yeah, if you're a little bit more experienced and you feel like when people are like actually showing interest straight away, you can just book them on the call just like that. And then you just earn easy commission, right? So third point is that you can't set everyone. I talked about this a little bit on the last talking point, but this is a very big thing. You just can't set everyone, right? The whole point here is you're feeding appointments to the sales closer, right? But you don't want to waste the sales closer's time. If someone physically can't pay, whether it's financially or the country that they live in, like the exchange rates for the currencies are just not there, right? There's no point in even setting them on an appointment, right? You're just gonna be, we have financially qualifying measures in place to actually deal with people that come through that may not have financial means, or might not be in the correct geographical area in which we help people. But at the same time, at the end of the day, that's just going to be wasting the time of the closer or of the salesperson, because it's just like an amount of time that they've allocated to this prospect that was never going to pay anyway, right? If you qualify someone in the DMs and you find that they're not qualified, and again, I'll go into kind of like how you qualify people later on, just send them over to some kind of free resource with all the offers that you work on for me, right? And all the offers that you should be working on, right? They will always have some kind of free option that people can take advantage of, right? So you always want to, if someone is disqualified, send them over to that free option, right? What is defined as disqualified can be different for a lot of different offers, but for the most part, for the very, very most part, it's either to do with where they are in the world geographically and whether they have the financial means, whether they have a business, whether they have a job, all that stuff, right? So yeah, you can't set everyone, right? You just can't. It'll waste the time of, because if you do, it'll just waste your time, it'll waste the time of the sales closer, and yeah, it'll just like, you're just gonna have a whole conversation with someone that was never gonna buy anyway, right? So disqualify quick, all right? Qualify and disqualify quick. And then the last point is speed to lead is everything. Speed, if you want to remember like just one thing, right? Honestly, right? You can do all these other things like terribly, but if you crack this one thing, actually not terribly, like even if you do all these other things like a moderate level, like mediocre level, and you just crack down this one thing, I promise you will do so much better, and you'll have such a better experience as an appointment setter if you really crack on this. Speed to lead, speed to lead, speed to lead. Right? What is speed to lead? Well, speed to lead, the definition of that is the speed at which you connect with a lead once they enter into the pipeline. So speed to lead, right? A good speed to lead that I always say is when you're having conversations with a prospect, right? If you respond, I always say respond within 1 to 5 minutes. Respond within 1 to 5 minutes, right? If you can respond straight away, that's great. Respond straight away, right? Speed to lead is everything. When you don't prioritize speed to lead, right? All those other points that I've mentioned just before mean nothing. They don't hold any weight because people forget things. People, their attention spans are terrible nowadays. So if a conversation is spanning over like the course of like 4 days or something, the problem that the person like had before, they might even forget themselves, even though it sounds crazy, but it's actually true. People might even forget their own problems that they came to you for, right? Or they could have talked themselves out of needing to seek help for that problem. So if you allow that to happen, you're literally leaving money on the table because you didn't respond quick enough. Now, I will say that I don't expect you to be in the messages 24/7, right? Obviously, that's not healthy. It's not what I expect at all. But when you're in the messages, always prioritize people that respond straight away. Okay, always prioritize those types of people, because those are the people, if you carry on the conversation, you can just book in straight away, because that's part of the trust aspect. They're trusting the person, because obviously you're in the DMs, speaking as if you're the creator, the content creator, or the business owner, right? So the prospect is going to trust the business owner or content creator more if you're showing that you actually care about what they have to say and responding in a timely manner. And when I say timely, I mean very timely, like within like 30 seconds to 5 minutes. All right. So that's speed to lead. Honestly, if you can't crack speed to lead, all those other things, like, they don't matter. Like, they don't matter at all. So yeah, really important that you understand that speed to lead is literally everything. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the DM framework that you'll be using within the DMs to actually set the appointments. Okay, so I'm going to use an example for one of my clients here. She's called Anya Moves on Instagram. She's a strength and mobility coach. She helps people get pain free. And yeah, I'm actually going to go into the actual anatomy, like I said, the actual talking points, and how you should word things as well. And I'll even show you how you can use AI. You can use AI to actually write messages for you, but I'll explain how you should actually do that in this video. All right, so going through it. First thing that I want you to take note of are these connector words. Okay, what are connector words? Connector words are essentially phrases and words that you use in between messages to actually come across as more of a human, right? Like I said, appointment setting is easy, right? Appointment setting is easy, and you're probably overcomplicating it. You don't have to overcomplicate this. I have all these things here, but honestly, You don't even have to use them, right? They're just here to give you, an idea of how you should connect different messages, right? When you're responding to people. Yeah, you can't just straight up just say, okay, what's your issue? Okay, how's this affecting your life? Okay, where do you live? Like, you slow down. You have to connect the questions together, right? You have to connect the responses and be human, right? So I always say, imagine a appointment setting as speaking to a friend, right? Obviously you want to put the creator or whoever you're setting for, doing appointment setting for, as the authority. You want to place them as the authority, so you don't want to do too much of that. But you also want to, the only way people trust others is by relating to them and feeling like they're talking to an actual human being, right? If this was a case where you could have just copy and paste stuff, or you could just copy and paste stuff and paste it into MetaSuite, we'd really just skip this whole DM setting stuff. We'd just get an AI to do it. All right, so remember, you're a human being. You're speaking to other human beings and representing a human being as well, right? So just speak human. Speak like you normally would with a friend. Obviously, again, there's a caveat here. There will be a certain way that the creator speaks or wants you to speak. So you can't just, if you speak to your friends in a certain way that doesn't align with it, you can't just now go and speak how you would usually with your friends, because it doesn't align with what the creator or how the creator wants you to speak. Right? So yeah, just keep that in mind. Connect the phrases, connect the questions that you ask whenever you're asking questions, whatever, or going through the conversation. So the next thing are these 6 points. I've actually gotten this from a YouTube video, but they're very, very relevant. I think this kind of thing here is part of my methodology, or part of my whole thinking behind how appointment setting should be, or even sales, whatever, right? It's all about certain points. You don't go through a script blindly, right? You have to look at these certain points, okay? If a prospect doesn't meet these 6 points, right? If they don't meet these 6 points, there's literally no point in really carrying on the conversation past objection handling, which I'm going to explain later on as well. So if they come across as any of these points, or they don't meet any of these points after you've objection handled them, again, which I'm going to go through later, if they still won't budge, there's literally no point in carrying on the conversation. Trust me, you'll just waste a bunch of time if you just press on, right? So the first point is the prospect friendly, right? I think it goes without saying, we know what friendly means. And bear in mind, I'm a big believer that you shouldn't take a lot of the stuff that prospects say to heart, especially if it's negative, right? Because a lot of the time, if you're actually working on a good offer with someone that has a good reputation, someone that says something negative, it's really just to do more with them than with you. So it's very, very important that you don't take this negative stuff seriously, or you don't take it to heart. But at the end of the day, we don't want to be booking calls with people that aren't friendly, because they're just going to be a pain in the neck to deal with, right? So if this person is being rude, or they're not being considerate, that you're just trying to help them, there's no point in continuing the conversation, to be honest with you. The second thing is, are they willing to engage in conversation? This is quite easy to determine as well. If someone is just giving you one word answers, and they're kind of asking, oh, why are you asking me these questions, or why are you doing all this stuff? If they ask like this, don't stop the conversation straight away, right? This is one of those more nuanced ones. Don't end the conversation straight away, but just kind of match their energy. If they're giving one word answers, make the questions or the responses that you give shorter, right? Just match their energy, right? But if they're really, really pressing on and not willing to engage in conversation, then yeah, you just end the conversation. You just leave them on red or whatever, right? You just, don't respond. It's quite rare that you come across people like this, and to be honest, like these first two, it's quite rare that you come across people like this. But if you do, yeah, there's literally no point in carrying on the conversation. Number 3, are they aware of the problem that they have? Okay, so they don't have to be aware of the exact problem that they have, but they just need to be aware that they have a problem, right? And the reason I say this is because part of your job is to help them realize what their problem actually is through the questions that you ask, right? So yeah, the first thing you always have to realize, or the first thing you always have to determine, is what their issue is or what their goal is, what they're trying to achieve. All right, and then you go through the rest. So are they aware that they actually have a problem? If they are aware, great, carry on. If they believe that they don't have any problems, right, you can ask them if they're 100% okay, right? If that means that they're 100% okay and there's nothing that they need to work on at all, you can ask them that. But a lot of the time, these people just aren't aware that they have problems, and again, you're just going to be wasting time with these people. Number 4 is, do they have a time frame? To be honest with you, this one's a little less important. I think it is important, but in terms of like the actual framework that we're using for the DMs, it's not something that we touch on too much, because if someone has a painful problem, they will more likely, it goes without saying, like they'd want to be able to get rid of that problem or achieve that goal, whatever it is, in the fastest time possible, right? That's kind of like a given, right? It's kind of like a given. People, they'd much rather achieve their goals or solve their problems in a shorter time frame than a longer time frame. So that, I don't think it's something that you have to like actually ask in a conversation, to be honest with you. But yeah, whether they have a time frame or not is very important. The next thing is it something that they want to address now or later? So this kind of ties into the last one. Again, I've kind of explained that, like, they don't, if someone has an actual painful problem, or like they aspire to hit a certain goal, they'd much rather want to achieve that sooner rather than later. The only thing that would stop someone is like this whole mindset of either getting rich quick, or them believing like there's no shortcuts to success, which is true. But the whole point here is to help them realize that getting to the problem or goal is better done sooner than later, which is something that they already internalized anyway. So what I'm trying to say is, number 4 and number 5, they're important, but most people that you'd be speaking to, like 95% of the people that you'd be speaking to, like they understand, like they want to address this stuff now rather than later, right? And then number 6 is, in that case, have you considered having some help? Right, this is another thing that you want to look out for. Again, I wouldn't say this is super duper important, but I would say that yeah, I mean, like pretty much people will consider getting help if their problem is painful enough, right? It's not something that needs to kind of be said or asked. It's kind of implied, right? If someone is trying to get to a certain goal, if they've been trying it on their own, like they probably have considered getting help, right? So I would say this is less important. These last 3, they're important, and if you come across like people that don't, possess these traits in conversations, I would say it's probably not, the best time to continue conversations with them. But if they do, if they do, carry on a conversation with you, they probably do possess these traits right here, these last 3. They're kind of implied. So that's what I'm trying to say. So this is another part, and this is something that I've come across or come up with quite recently. We're implementing AI into kind of our conversations, and the way that we do it is not with every message, right? We do it for certain messages only. And And the way that we go about, using the AI is very specific, right? You have a very specific tone that you would use to be more relatable, to be more empathetic to people's problems. And yeah, I'll go into this a little bit later. But just keep in mind that we do use AI to help with answering messages. Okay, so this is the meat and potatoes of the actual script. Okay, you don't need to follow. You don't need to worry about these here, unless I tell you need to. Right? These initial messages are going to go to people that follow the page or like a video, right? You won't need to worry about these messages unless I say that you have to. That's pretty much it, right? They're just messages that you send to people that follow or like, right? And again, here, speed to lead is very important here as well, especially for people that like a video. Reaching out to people within like a minute to 5 minutes after they like or follow is very important for these messages. And this is a follow-up that you send if they don't respond. So if they don't respond, you just put name and then question mark. If they do respond though, they'll be like, yeah, that's great to hear. Are you finding it right now, or are you struggling with anything, or just like the content? Right, this is very specific to the client that I'm speaking about here, Anya, who's a strength and mobility coach. It's very specific to her. But yeah, I wouldn't say fully follow this. It's a case of if someone responds to this initial message, right, it'll always be centered around how their journey in whatever the creator teaches or helps people with is going right now. So for this, strength and mobility, how's life treating you mobility wise and in general, right? When people talk about their mobility, right, you just go into finding out what the actual problem is, rather than just asking straight away, okay, how's it going? If they say what their issue is straight away, yeah, you just skip a few steps. But if they don't, there's certain ways that you can ask them. Okay, if they say, yeah, I'm just working on my mobility right now, that doesn't really tell you what their issue is. You then want to kind of prod further and ask, okay, so is there anything like you're struggling with right now? Are you 100% happy with the progress you're making right now? And then that will get them to open up and actually say what their issue is, right? So that's kind of like, you don't have to do this word for word. It's only like, it's very specific to this client that I'm talking about right now, which is what I'm trying to say. You don't have to do this word for word. If they're just starting out, yeah, if someone responds to this message and say like they're just starting out, you're like, yeah, okay, that's fair enough. Just out of curiosity though, what made you start, a mobility journey or whatever kind of journey that they're talking about in the first place? And then are there issues that you're trying to fix? Again, this is quite specific to this client, but yeah, you get what I'm trying to say. If the person is doing well though, if you ask this, if they respond to these initial questions, right, and they say, yeah, I'm doing good, you just be like, awesome, hope my content continues to provide value to your journey. That's it. Now, if they're not doing well, or if they have issues that they're dealing with, or they have goals that they're trying to achieve, right, you then go into this discovery, because at that point this person needs help. Okay, so again, if they respond to these initial questions, saying that they are working on something, or they are struggling with something, or they're just starting out, you then go to these discovery questions. Okay, so the goal with this is to understand the person's struggles, their goals and goals on a personal level, and make them feel heard. Very, very important. This is very, very important. Make them feel heard. Okay, you want to uncover their current pain points, challenges, and goals. Use connectors to maintain a conversational flow and dig deeper, and always link back to past answers and information that they've shared about their current situation and goals. Okay, So this is very, very important stuff. Like I said before, we don't really follow a script for this. It's really just an anatomy of the conversation, right? So if they haven't, the first thing that we always, want to realize is what their issue is right now, their main issue is, or what their main goal is right now. Okay, so for this person, for example, like Anya that I'm talking about right now, this specific client, he does strength and mobility training. She helps people that are actually dealing with pain, right? Pain and stiffness in their body. So it's very, very much problem and issue focused, right? It's not so much goal focused. A lot of the time, the goal is going to be to get rid of their pain and stiffness. So if you can identify what their issue is, you can almost always assume that their goal is tied with getting rid of that pain and stiffness. So that's why it's kind of like this in this example here. But there'll be other examples, right, with other types of offers. For example, for like a real estate offer, people aren't always dealing with problems, right? Usually you want, with those type of offers where, there's like a return on investment involved, ROI focused, you want to focus on the goal, like the end goal, what they're actually trying to achieve right now, right? And then that's kind of like how you differentiate it. So we always want to find out what their problem is right now, or what goals they're trying to achieve right now. Okay, that's the first thing always. Now once we've understood that, you want to now empathize and be human. Have a few emojis if you need to, break paragraphs into multiple messages, right? And I'm going to use the AI. All right, we actually use AI to do this, right? I'm going to show you an example of how we use it. Okay, this is a perfect example of someone that is opening up and basically saying, yeah, they're dealing with some issues, right? They said, from here, you can say this is still bothering me. But to be honest, all right, who's trying to read all of this and kind of, better yet, make up a response to fit this level of opening up, right? This is very good that he's literally written a whole paragraph, right? It just means that they're in an immense amount of pain, right? Or they're like very friendly or open to conversation, which is very, very good. You want to encourage that. But the last thing that you want is, them, not matching their energy to make them close up and not open up as much. So what I do is basically using the AI language model that I'm going to show right now. Yeah, I use ChatGPT, and specifically I use the AI humanizer GPT, right? The AI humanizer. If you can get this one, that's amazing, right? You'd have to get the paid version of ChatGPT, it's like $20 a month. But yeah, it's $25 a month. You get this AI humanizer GPT, and it's very, very helpful for this kind of stuff. I would say it's the best human sounding GPT out there. But yeah, that's something I would highly recommend. And then I'll basically put in the prompt that you see at the top here. Put in this prompt, and basically whenever hold on. Yeah, I had this in a separate document, but essentially whenever the AI responds with a response that isn't up to par to what you need for the conversation, you need to refer back to the original prompt with this, right? Whenever you get a response from ChatGPT that isn't great, you basically respond to that with this prompt here, right? Stop steering away from the original data I gave you in my original prompt. And that will kind of bring ChatGPT back to reality and kind of get it back to the responses that you want it to give, basically. So yeah, I want to quickly go through this thing here, because it can even help you with your messages as well, not just the AI generated ones. So this kind of gives a description of the actual coach or client that you're working for. And here are the specific rules. So in terms of tone and style, keep the tone natural and conversational. Use a trendy or casual tone. that are about 7 out of 10 on the trendy or casual tone scale. Not too slang heavy, but still clear and professional, right? You want to kind of be conversational, but not have too much slang or too much, immature language or shorthands or whatever that makes the authority of the person that you're appointment setting for go down. You also want to maintain an authoritative energy without sounding stiff. You want to keep the reply short and tight unless the person sends a long message themselves, and this ties into this right here, right? You want to use occasional typos or shorthands if they sound natural, right? Like def instead of definitely, to be honest instead tbh instead of to be honest, and gonna instead of like going, right? Occasionally, right? You don't want to do it all the time. You want to use like one emoji per message max. Make sure it matches the emotion or vibe of the message, not just random emojis or repeated ones like a brain or whatever, right? That's very, very important. You don't want to use too many emojis, you don't want to use too many shorthands and like slang, because that lowers the status of the person that you're appointment setting for. You want to relate to people, but you also want to keep an authority, right? You want to go down to their level. You want to refrain from using gendered language such as man or girl. Keep everything neutral. You never want to never ask follow-up questions unless the user tells you to. So this point right here is specifically for the AI, right? Obviously you as the appointment setter, the human, you're going to be asking follow-up questions, but the AI isn't going to do that. They're just here to empathize and relate to the prospect, right? Through the data that you give them. Then you don't pretend that you're famous or refer to yourself as a celebrity. That's a big one as well. Do not use formatting, no bold, italics or underlining. Do not end the messages with full stops. Yeah, that's a big one as well. Like, when does anyone ever end a text message with a full stop? No one ever does that. So yeah, you shouldn't do that either. Geography responses. If someone says where they're from, right, you want to compliment and relate to the place, but only speak from what you've seen, heard or know from others. Never pretend like you've been there. Very important, right? Mention that you, the coach, are based in Poland. Like, this is specifically for the prospect or the coach that I'm talking about right now. She's based in Poland right now, so this is specific to her, okay? If they're doing something or working with someone, if they're already doing something or working with someone, right, acknowledge and appreciate that they're taking action. Do not fully endorse what they're doing. Certainly leave room for doubt and ask, how's the progress been? Would you say that's been 100% positive so far? If they show doubt, generally ask why it hasn't been working fully, and then use the answer to guide the conversation towards your solution or offer, right? Then you want to use relatable comments as well. Include only one empathetic or relatable comment per message. Do not stack multiple. Never overdo empathy, hype, or praise. Keep it real, right? This is very important as well. And then the goal is to respond to messages in a way that builds trust and subtly positions you as the expert while keeping the vibe casual and approachable, like someone they actually want to work with. Very, very important stuff. Okay, so that's kind of like the whole premise with that. So how you would use that, the only time we would use the AI is for these things in bold, right? Empathize, compliment, relate to where they're from, and yeah, that's it. Like, these three things here: empathize, relate to where they're from. Right? These are the only three instances where we'd use the AI. Everything else, we ask the question ourselves, right? So I'm going to show you exactly how I do it. So obviously, after you put in the prompt into the GPT, it knows what it should do. So now all you need to do is either copy and paste the message that they've written, or you want to screenshot the messages. You want to screenshot the messages and then put them into ChatGPT. or you can basically like copy and paste the last message that they sent, but this is sometimes a little bit more effective. I'm going to, and then right, and then basically I just enter, and it gives me a response. Give it a second. Okay, so whenever you get a response from ChatGPT, you never want to fully just go with it. You want to always read it first, right? Proofread it before you send, right? Very, very important. It'd be like, yeah, in this instance, I'll be like, yeah, wow, that's a lot to carry both physically and mentally. The way that you described it really shows how long it's been weighing you down. And honestly, no one should have to just deal with it like this, like it's permanent. It doesn't have to stay that way though. There's definitely a better way of moving forward with this if the right pieces are finally put together. Yeah, I'll say this is pretty good. Alright, so I'll just send this over. And whenever you send this, right, you always want to look, okay, where are we in the conversation? So yeah, we've kind of pitched the call already. Here, have you got like 30 minutes over the next few days? Me and my team to break it down for you in detail, right? We've already pitched the call here, so this is just kind of like a follow up. And yeah, this is his response. So now, after I've sent this, I know all I need to do now is link back to him getting on a call, right? And then I'll be like, yeah, and then I'll be like, again, ask him, are you free sometime this week for me and my team to give you a deeper breakdown into how this can be possible. And yeah, after I send this, just link back to where we were in the conversation, which is here. Alright, so this is another conversation. This is kind of like we're in the problem identification phase. Right, we're trying to find out what exactly his problem is, and I think he's kind of explained it here. His kind of environment, his mindset, all that stuff, and also how he's doing the exercises. Okay, so this is kind of us identifying the problem. So now we want to empathize and we want to relate to his issue. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the AI. Screenshot that text, send it over to ChatGPT, and then like that. So I think that's quite a good message. Let's send that over. Alright, and then now what I'm gonna do, because now we've identified what his issue is, right? We then ask how it's affecting their daily life, right? And if it's something that obviously is affecting their daily life or isn't really affecting their daily life, like it's something that can be implied, right, without you having to ask, instead of asking how it affects their daily life, because that would be redundant, you'd ask how long it's been an issue for them, right? So how long has so after I've identified what the issue is and I've empathized with that issue, asking how long that issue has been a problem, right? So how long has your environment and your exercise methods been an issue call you. Okay, simple as that. Alright, so this is another example. It's kind of had a conversation a little bit before, but it's kind of, I guess we'll have to kind of continue it here. What I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to copy and paste this message, because it's kind of like the conversation started over again. And by the way, this is someone responding to an automated message. Right, sometimes when people comment a keyword or DM us a keyword, they will get an automated message to get a free resource, and this is kind of like someone responding to that. So I would kind of change this, right? I wouldn't say this right, like straight up. I would change it a little bit. Yeah, I would get rid of that question because it's not really relevant. Basically, in this instance, it's obvious that the pain is affecting his daily life, or it's affecting him quite a lot. So I wouldn't fully ask that because it's implied. So I'll be like, how long have you been trying to get rid of this pain? Simple as. I'll go and find another conversation. Alright, so this is another one. This is kind of like problem identification here. She said that she has been to a chiropractor. She has, even though she's been to the chiropractor, right, she's saying it's not 100% helpful, it's 8% helpful, and that she still feels pain even though, she's doing the stretches that, she gave her, right? So there's obviously a problem here, right? So now, this is actually an AI generated message as well, right? And you'll be like, yeah, appreciate the honesty, 80% is decent progress, but if you're still getting pain even with stretches, there's probably something missing the approach. What do you feel like isn't quite clicking yet? Okay, this is still problem identification, because she hasn't said, she said the problem here, yeah, but it's not specific enough. Like she just said she still gets pain, but that's not specific. Like what do you really mean by you still get pain, right? What do you think is not clicking, right? That's what we ask here. And you see, do you notice how like we went from her giving like one-line answers and stuff, to her actually opening up, right? This is the power of actually empathizing and relating to people and their issues, because it shows that you actually care, and this will allow people to open up more, right? So I'd say stretches some aggravate muscles. So the stretches some aggravate the muscles, pins and needles too hard, difficult to walk. Can't be from lack of exercise, as I go to gym 5 days a week, and I go for 30-minute walk daily. I've been treated by the chiro 2 years. For 2 years in June, he has given me stretches that I do regularly. The stretch that can cause issues to hip flexor stretch and sometimes a quad stretch. Okay, so clear issues here. Okay, so what I'm going to do, since we've identified the problem, okay, she's actually even said like how long this has been an issue for, right? So those two bases are already covered, right? So we've identified what the problem is. We've found out what is how long this has been an issue for. Look, 2 years, almost 2 years, right? So now all we need to find out is where she's from to qualify her, and also what is holding her back, right? So those are the last two things we have to realize, right? Because she's already answered like the first two things. So now that she said that, we want to relate to her and, you know, empathize with her before we go into the separate one. Okay. So now I've screenshotted that and I've sent it over to ChatGPT. Yeah, so this is what ChatGPT is doing. Yeah, if certain stretches are firing up like that, especially to the point of pins and needles, then there's definitely a sign that something deeper is missed. Have you ever fully assessed how your hips and pelvis are actually moving before all the stretching work started? Yeah, so this is quite irrelevant. Like, it doesn't move the conversation forward at all. So I'll get rid of that. Like, and this applies to like most of the questions that ChatGPT gives you after the first message. So what I would do is I wouldn't copy this. I would only copy the first part, and then I would send it over. And then this might be a little bit of a pattern interrupt, but I'm gonna go ahead and ask the qualifying question. By the way, just find it interesting to know where people are from. Alright, so I'm gonna ask that. This is kind of like the connector phrase, right? And then now I'm asking the question. Okay, just like that. And basically what this does is basically builds authority. Because if people are getting like value and you're actually showing that you know what you're talking about in the messages, people are way more likely to open up, like you have here, like she has here. And they're way more likely to actually, like, you know, answer questions and be cooperative. So this is the whole way that we actually use the AI in order to get the responses that we want. Right, AI is very important in this, and it's becoming increasingly important time and time again. So we use the AI language model to empathize and be human. Right, it sounds crazy, like to use AI to sound and be human, sound like a human or be human or relate to a human being. But trust me, it is a very, very powerful thing if you frame the AI model right. It can save you a ton of time and a lot of brain power actually thinking up a response. Because yeah, you're just not the coach, you're not the person that is the expert in this, so it can take you a lot more brain power than usual to actually respond with a good response. So it's not your fault, it's just how it is. So we only use the AI to empathize and be human. We don't use it to ask questions unless you really, really have to, right? So keep that in mind. I want to give an example of when like someone's place or where they live was complimented and then we responded with something else. I think I know where exactly. Yeah, this guy here. So yeah, so I asked it here. By the way, where are you based? I always find it interesting to know what it's like where people are from. So right now I'm living in Arizona, but I'm from Mexico. Probably stay like 6 more months, then I'll go back home. And then this is basically AI generated, right? Look how it like complements the look how it like complements where they're from, right? Basically saying like, okay, Muslim, I don't know how to explain that or say that, but yeah, saying where they're from is a beautiful spot. I'm basically relating to it, and basically you don't want to act like you've been there yourself, right? That's just going to veer the conversation off to a whole different place, because if you act like you've been there yourself, right, it's going to get them to ask a bunch of questions like, oh, what did you do there, like what was your favorite part about it? Like, that's just not moving the conversation forward, right? So that's something you want to keep in mind, but it's already based inside of the original prompt, so you don't really have to worry about that. But yeah, that's an example there. but going forward with the rest. All right, so let's say you've gone through all this, right? You've found out what their issue is, or you found out what their main goal is. You find out what's how long this issue has been an issue for them, or how it's affecting their daily life, or how long this goal has been a goal for them, right? Then you qualify them financially or whatever, or based on where they're from. You then complement where they're from, or kind of relate to what they do in some way, right? And then if they don't fit into one of these, like if they're not from like the UK, US, Canada, UAE, or country in Europe, send them over to the free school, which is a free, lead magnet or free resource that we have for people that aren't qualified for the high ticket or like the main program. This qualification can be different for different people or different offers that you're working on, but for this specific offer, we are only working, or booking calls with people, looking to book calls with people that are from the UK, US, Canada, UAE, or like a country in Europe. Okay, so keep that in mind. So if they say that from one of those areas, proceed to the next point. And that point is finding out what's holding them back, right? Problem or goal identification, impact of goal or problem, qualification, finding out what's holding them back. That's the 4 things you want to look for in the conversation, right? And then once you've gone through those 4 things, right, this is a very good segue into this, right? So once they've explained what's holding them back, want to give a valuable insight based on their situation, okay? And this kind of gives you more leverage to actually go into pitching the call, because too many times you've probably seen, like, I don't know, well, I've definitely seen it where people just go in and they just straight away just don't temperature check, don't kind of build that authority, and then just go straight into book a call with me, right? These people, especially if it's like cold traffic, like people that haven't really consumed a lot of the creators' content, these people are not going to book a call unless they are in dire need for help, right? So you want to give a valuable insight based on their situation, and then you want to say, you see where I'm coming from with that, right? And almost all the time they're going to respond with, yes, I see where you're coming from. This thing right here is also going to be AI generated, right? It's kind of like the same thing with the empathize and relation kind of thing. You want to give a valuable insight, right? Just copy, just screenshot the message, screenshot the chat, and like kind of get it to do this, right? And then once they respond yes with that, you just be like, yeah, but honestly, I'm very certain that we can stop your problem. This is going to be different for each offer, but this is how we do it for this offer, right? This is how we bridge the gap between what they're doing right now into actually booking a call and actually getting help, right? One thing that I wish I knew personally when I first started, in this whole like appointment setting, sales closing space, so you have to give people an incentive to do things, right? Even though you're the authority, even though you can actually help them, they still won't do the things that you need them to do if they're not incentivized to do so, right? So when we first come in with the sense of, yeah, I'm very certain we can help you, right? Because at this point you would have built authority, right? So that you saying you can help them isn't that big of a deal. Like it's pretty much believable, right? At that point, and then you explain how it can be, the goal can be, achieved, or the problem can be solved, right? Just by spending a few months doing the right movements for your body and making sure that you're doing them the right way, right? That's kind of like building more authority here. And it'd be like, yeah, it makes a huge difference. And then this is very important as well. You want to say it very casually. You don't want to be like, yeah, do you want to book a call? Like, let's book a call. All you should do is book a call, right? You want to make it very casual to be like, yeah, it's just like, that's just how we do things, like we usually just, speak with people like 30 minutes to kind of help them, right? Be very casual about it. Start there just like, it's very, very casual. Like, I don't really need to think too much about it. Right? There's no like ulterior motives here. Right? That's what you want to do. Be very casual about it and be like, yeah, you got like 30 minutes sometime this week for me and my team to break down how that would even be possible. Right? And then if they say yes, send the booking link. And then, this is a very important thing here. If someone asks for specific advice or coaching in the DMs, be like, honestly, it would be irresponsible of me to tell you, just from the info you told me now. Everyone's body is different, so it's about giving you advice that will specifically work for you. Obviously, if it's something like a real estate offer, for example, you're not going to say everyone's body, right? You say everyone's business is different, or everyone's journey is different, right? The whole point of the DMs, you're not supposed to coach in the DMs. You're not supposed to sell in the DMs either. You're supposed to create a gap and identify a problem that they have and pitch them on the idea of getting help, right? Instead of actually, the goal here isn't to actually sell the help or to give the help. It's to sell them on the idea of getting help, right? And not just getting help, but getting help from you, right? Or the person that you're setting the appointment for, right? So this is the next thing. Like, this is a very important thing here, because there will be people that just ask, very specific questions in the DMs, and we don't expect you to be an absolute expert in whatever your appointment setting for, like the offer. So this is a very good way out. And then after you send this, you then go back to where you were last in the conversation, move the conversation on from there. And then once you've gotten to move the conversation on, then you pitch the call. Okay, but now let's say you pitch the call and they say yeah, I do have 30 minutes. Then go and book the call, right? Send them the booking link, right? And then after you send the booking link, this is very important. It links back to what I was saying. You have to incentivize people to do things, right? They're not going to do things if you don't incentivize them, right? Obviously, this doesn't guarantee that they'll book a call, but it'll raise the chances of them booking a call even more, right? Especially if you follow up as well, if they don't book a call straight away. All right, so you want to always quantify. Say that it always takes under a minute to book in a time, right? And then you also want to give them an insight into what happens if they don't take action right now. Right, so make sure that you get that call booked in now, because if you don't, my team won't be able to send you over free resources that are specifically prepared for you. Okay, this is an incentive. This is going to highly incentivize someone to actually book in a call. Right, so you don't just send the booking link. Right, you don't just do that, because people will see a booking link and they're like, what do I do with this? Like, what will happen once I book the call? Right, so they're not really incentivized to do so. Right, so that's what you want to send. Now, if no booking shows, right, this is the follow-up sequence. Right, this is the follow-up sequence. You want to what's it called? Like the message. That's the first follow-up message that you send. And then I would say like 24 hours later, you want to send this as well. Hey Neo, I saw you said you'd book a call, but nothing came through. Are you finding it hard to find a time that works for you? Alright, once they respond, you can send a screenshot to me on WhatsApp. Right? This will kind of allow me to see whether we can accommodate them or not. Right? But yeah, a lot of the times people respond to this and be like, yeah, I'll just book in a call later on today. Right? Sometimes they don't, sometimes they do. But if they don't, again, if they again don't book in that call, you say, hey, did you end up booking in that call? Right? And then if they don't book a call after that, you'd start sending special few follow-up messages. Now, I'm not going to go into the special few follow-ups now in this video. We actually have another training video under this, right? If you scroll down a little bit, there's another training video going into detail about how you should go about that. But yeah, just know that there's quite a lot of thought that needs to be done to get people to book a call sometimes. Alright, so I forgot to tell you guys what to do once someone books a call, and what happens in between them booking a call and then the sales call happening. So essentially I have a video here, a video called 36 minutes of unfiltered knowledge on how to build trust as an online coach. This video goes through every single video or every single trust-based sales asset that you need in your trust-based digital ecosystem once someone books a call, or throughout your whole ecosystem, to be fair. But it specifically also goes through the videos that you send before having a call with someone. So yeah, I'd recommend watching this video as well right after this one. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Alright, so you made it to the end of the video. I appreciate you watching to the end, and I hope you found a lot of value from what I shared today. Right, so if you like my approach and you genuinely want to understand how you can apply some of the frameworks and the principles that I mentioned in my videos for your own business, and see if it would even work, my Instagram is linked in the description. Feel free to shoot me a follow and DM me the word ecosystems, because when you DM me the word ecosystems, I'll be able to understand that you want more context around how some of the frameworks and principles that I mentioned in my videos can be better applied to your own business. And if you've done that already, feel free to subscribe to the page if you haven't already, and like the video or not, I don't really mind. But all that to say, I post weekly videos just like these around how online coaches just like yours can scale to 20 to 50k a month in take-home profit, without any sort of complex funnels, just a simple offer, a simple strategy, and simple fulfillment. All right, but with that said, take care.